Looks like we're live now.
All right.
Yay. Welcome to
Yay.
the podcast, or welcome if it's your first time here. Today's conversation is a soft one. I'm really looking forward to this conversation, but don't confuse softness with lack of strength. We're talking about coming home to yourself, about intuition, boundaries, self belief, and what it really looks like to lead your life quietly, intentionally, and in alignment, especially during a season of transition, right? Saruchi and I were just having a conversation on this. This episode is one for those who've outgrown who they used to be, but aren't fully sure who they're becoming yet. If that's you, take a breath with me. You're exactly where you're meant to be. So, I have Saruchi here. She is a powerhouse and she will be in our upcoming book, 100 Women Who Lead. She's currently writing, right? Tell us, Ruchi, tell us about yourself, your business, where you're from, and what inspired you to be a part of this project.
Well, thank you, Jen. I appreciate warm introduction and invitation to be part of this amazing book. I'm excited to be part of it. My name is Suruchi Singh Tronstad, and I am a mom, first and foremost, of two beautiful little ones. I am an international student turned into, I came here as an international student, so I'm an immigrant who came to the United States with a dream and really two suitcases when I left home when I was 17. So I've spent most of my adult life here in the United States. I've grown up here. I'm raising my family here now. And so it has really been an interesting journey of transformations and evolution, and just really realizing and understanding who you are as a human being. And so my chapter is going to be a reflection really of the life that I have lived. I don't think by any means I am this, a big leader. But I do think that the power of leadership is that it can come in so many forms. It can be a quiet leadership. The leadership can be taught in the life experiences that you have lived. And so my hope is that my chapter will be, a hope or an inspiration for someone who needs it in today's day and time. So I'm excited about it.
Thank you for saying that. I love that you ended with that topic because leadership looks different, right? And in today's topic, we're talking about quiet leadership. It doesn't always mean, you're on stage speaking to a million people. Sometimes it means where you're at, right? And that's totally fine. And so I want to hear it from you. I have a few questions because it's really
Yeah.
inspiring what you're doing and how you're showing up now. It's really beautiful that you've started your own business and you've navigated all these changes.
Mhm.
When you hear the phrase coming home to yourself, what does that mean to you personally and how you show up in your life?
Yeah. So I will speak from my experience. I think when you travel or when you transition into a new role, let's just say, for example, when you transition from one job to a new job, you feel like, you now have to leave your old job, your identity, to adapt to a new identity, right? Similarly, when I left home when I was 17, the identity that I was, of who I was, changed to who this new person was going to be. So as I went through different chapters in life, I realized that it's important for us to recognize who we are in the core, because that person that's within you is with you at all times, whether you're owning a business, you're running a company, you're a mom, or you're going to college, or you can flash forward it back all the way to your childhood. So for me, it's always been important to always coming home to myself, because I can be so many versions to so many people of what my role requires me to be. At the end of the day, the authentic relationship is sustainable when you are authentic to yourself. So for me, coming home to myself essentially means kind of keeping my roots and my values intact to who I am, and kind of continuing my journey as a moral compass, not allowing anything outside to change it, because that's not really who I am. So every decisions I've made in life, whether it's personal or professional, has always been as a result of that. And I didn't really have a way to identify that. I didn't really have the exact word. So in a way, this project was really interesting, because as I started writing and as I started opening some of those, almost like a container of memories, right? It started to come to me that I always come back to myself. I listen to that gut instinct of what's telling me, and it does require a lot. It requires patience, it requires boundaries, it requires intuition, it requires trusting yourself. So it touches a little bit of all of that aspect.
Well, I appreciate you mentioning that, because you're right, right? There's different transitions of life that we all go through. As for some of us, it's harder. And for some of us, there's time to reflect and look into
Mhm.
your core and your values. And what did that look like for you? I would want to hear more about what you
Yeah.
said about intuition, how to trust your inner
Mhm.
voice, especially when it didn't match logic, expectations, or what others wanted from you, right? Because, like you said, there's different roles, so
Yeah.
different people see you in a different version, and they have
Yeah.
different expectations, or whatever the case might be.
Right, right. Well, thank you for asking that. I think it touches into, I think about that a lot, because I think about my life when I lived with my parents back home in Nepal. And my parents always, it's kind of like an inside joke with my family, but they always say, like, Suruchi always knows what she wants, like how, or like she knows what's right for her. And in a way where I could kind of explain to them, like, they're, going back into my childhood, there was once a time where they enrolled me at a school that I didn't think was the right fit for me. And I was
Yeah.
pretty young, but I went to the school, I tried it, and I just knew it was not the right match. It was a great school, but it wasn't a good fit for me. And so at the time, I didn't have this vocabulary of like right fit. I don't even think we have that. Like, it's not a right fit vocabulary. In Nepalese, it's usually you go with it and you kind of adapt. But I remember having this conversation with my parents after a couple of weeks, and just kind of explaining to them, this school does not allow me to grow in ways I need to grow to become the person that I need to be. And as I was explaining to them, I thought to myself, I'm really listening to my gut instinct, because it does not feel right to me here. I don't feel happy. This was a boarding school too, so I had to be kind of away from my parents, and that was probably a part of that. But that, and my parents listened to me, and they said, we trust your instinct. And so if you don't think this is the right fit for you, we're going to switch school and put you somewhere where we think might be a good fit. And so that really allowed me to have the confidence of knowing that it's okay to make a mistake. I mean, that could have been a mistake. It turned out to be a good choice that I did leave that school. It came close to home, and stayed with my parents for a few more years. At the time, I didn't know I was going to be moving to United States soon after. But it allowed me to feel that I could listen to my instinct and follow it. And so I think when I moved to the United States young, 17, 18 is pretty young, I had to make a lot of decisions. I had to make a lot of choices, right? You're here kind of without your parents. You're kind of making the decisions. You want to be a good student. You are in your, I was a green card holder. So, and I'm bringing this to this topic too, because I think it's relevant in today's day and age, because as an international student, as an immigrant, you have so many additional layers of responsibilities that a lot of people don't have to think about if you are going to school in your own country. So I had to always put my radar up to, like, I want to be a good student. I don't want to get in trouble. I want to have fun, but I want to be safe, all of these things. So throughout college and beyond, I always kind of really used my best judgment to, whether it came to friendship situations, we can talk about parties, on all different situations. I felt like I had to listen to my gut instinct. And so eventually I came to a position in my life where it helped to have those gut instinct to choose a career, which path to go, or shifting a career, a pivot from what you're doing to what your calling is, what you're being called to do. So it's been kind of a practice, really. It's not something that you do it once and you feel like I'm so confident. Even today, as I'm pivoting from so many different things, I'm always adapting, and I'm okay with that. So I don't know if it answers your question, Jen, but that's
No,
kind
you did a great job. Thank you so much for sharing that and sharing those parts of your story, because it's so true. It's a journey, right? And
of.
there's
Mhm.
different layers and different times in your life where you'll experience these shifts. Maybe it's a move, maybe now it's school, and now you're graduated, now you're in your professional career, and now you shifted into
Right.
entrepreneurship, right? I'm speaking
Yeah.
specifically about you because yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
It's true for
Yeah.
a lot of us, and it's in a lot of the direction that we're headed right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I
Absolutely.
want to ask, because it leads into that same topic. So many people are waiting for permission to believe in
Mm.
themselves. In your experience, how is self belief actually built, not in theory, but in real life? Because you mentioned this, right? Um, it's not always something that you were just really good at, you know?
Right, right, right. And it doesn't come with kind of like a manual, right? Like it's like this is
uh
how you do it. Yeah. Um, Before I answer your question, I just want to make sure I understand. So kind of like the self-belief. Can you reiterate your question one more time to make sure I answer it?
Absolutely. I know I asked it I expanded it a little bit, but in your experience, how is self belief actually built, not in theory, but in real life?
Mm. Mm. That is such an interesting question because, again, I think self belief is something that is comes with practice. But to be honest with you, if we all were to ask ourselves, there's always the person inside of you that is telling you what you should do or what you shouldn't do. It may not always tell you, like, this is what you should do. It may ask you a lot of questions. Like for me, I know when I have my moment, when I have a moment of reflection, which I'm trying to do more intentionally lately, writing notes and gratitude, just kind of really sitting with my thoughts and not really acting on it. I think it really comes down to understanding who you are. You don't have to believe what you are thinking or what you think you're going to do is always the right way, but you have to believe in yourself. And that's half of the battle. And I think for me, I really, and I don't want to say this the wrong way. It's not that I don't care if nobody believes in me. That's not the right word. But I think the first battle of that is to know that I believe in me. So if you have a vision, you have a dream, you have a project, whatever it is, you have to believe that I can do this and this is how I'm going to do it. So to me, it's almost like everything is figure outable. Like you can figure it out and you can figure out the steps to get there. And it's okay to admit, okay, maybe it's not for me. It's okay to admit I need help. And it's okay to admit we're going to pivot. All of that is okay. You're allowed to make mistakes in this lifetime. But that's where we have to understand, I think, is self-belief does not mean you cannot make any mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes, but you have to believe that you can do what you need to do, or you're capable of it, or you're enough to do it. So
Well,
that's
that's
kind of
so
my take
beautiful.
on it.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing, because you brought on several topics. Self-compassion, right? Giving
Oh, yeah.
yourself that grace and understanding, like, you know what, I'm learning, like, this isn't something that I knew before, or I'm
Yeah.
learning to regulate myself, or
Yeah.
building
Yeah.
understanding.
Mm-hmm. 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 The
So it
grace.
brings me, yes, exactly. It brings me to this other question that I want to talk more about boundaries, especially for women
Mm-hmm.
who are deeply caring, intuitive, and relational. What
Mm-hmm.
has boundary setting taught you about self-love, right? We're just speaking about
Yeah.
self-compassion.
Yeah. Boundaries are important. I think boundaries can be described or perceived in so many different ways. And again, I think this is also one of those things that is not intuitive. You don't just know what does boundary mean? How do you go about creating a boundary? What does a healthy boundary look like? So I'll just give you examples of my own experience. Again, that's all I have, kind of what defines and kind of models my life, right? I am a deeply empathetic human being. I am very affected when I see news that I have no idea who this human being is or an animal. It affects me. I'll lose sleep over it. I am very invested. So I've learned that I cannot be a half cup um, and be able to pour to my family, my kids, who are my priority. So to me, boundary is even allowing myself to not be affected by all the circumstances that might not be in my control when I know I have to be present for my family. That's the type of boundary I create for myself, whether that's maybe limiting the news that I watch at certain times when I have to be there for my kiddos, or maybe it's situations. And sometimes, I always talk about with my friends, I talk about friendships even. We go through these cycles and phases in life, and I've made so many incredible friends in my life from childhood up until this stage. But there's so many friendships that were there for a season, and nothing really happens where nothing bad happened, but you go into a stage in life where you two are no longer in the same space. Maybe you don't work together anymore. Maybe you two are not in the same school. So you kind of go different ways, right? And that's okay, because that friendship stayed in that season when you both needed each other and you have that good memory of that. So it's okay to have that boundary as well, where you're continuing your life with your new circle, your new friends, and your new life. So I think for me, boundary is really understanding what serves you, and what your purpose is and how it affects you. The goal for me anyways is to be a good human being. I want to be a good person to my community. I want to be a good human being. I want to be the best mom my kids can have, best wife my husband can have, really, really good daughter. And so for me, my boundaries involve what allows me to be that. And if it takes my energy where I don't feel like myself, I have to shrink myself to fit a certain mold, I don't want to be part of that, because that takes away from who I am. Again, taking it away from coming home to ourselves. So I think boundaries are important, not in a negative way, but we can look at it in a very positive way, where it reinforces us and it empowers us to be the best version of us.
Yeah, it's that part of self-love that you're talking about, and
Absolutely.
I love that. Thank you so much for empowering the listeners to believe that they can too set boundaries, and it looks different for everybody, right? In a different season too. And
Absolutely.
for someone listening who feels like they're in between versions of themselves, not who they were, not fully who they're
Mhm.
becoming yet,
Yeah.
what would you want them to know?
Oh my goodness. I think we all are in that season, right? I
The year
feel
of the
like
horse.
year of the horse, right? Year of the snake is over. I think we all, whether we feel it now or whether we felt it last year or maybe we feel it in the future, I think we all go through a phase and stage where we are not quite who we want to be, or maybe we're not even sure who we are meant to be, but we are not who we used to be. And I think it's okay to have that stage where you give yourself grace. I think a phase, it's not so much a phase where you're grieving, but it's a phase where you need to sit with yourself to figure out what are the parts of me that I love, that I want to bring forward into my new version, and what are the parts of insecurities, doubts, hesitations, people pleasing. What are the things I no longer carry with myself that are not in alignment with who I'm going to be? Again, I think it's okay to sit on it and even grieve. I think the grieving part is also important. I know I've gone through that with multiple transitions when I left home,
Mhm.
when I travel to move to a new city, I think you go through that phase where I'm no longer that person. Even becoming a mom, right? As much as you love being a mom and it's the best thing that has happened to me, I do remember sitting on, I'm not who I was. I was this corporate girl doing masters in the morning, MBA, and I was going and doing all this corporate and I was getting my promotion. I was this very focused corporate ladder person, and then I became a mom, and I was like, that's my priority changed. I no longer craved any of that. I just wanted to have time with my baby. And so, but it took time to kind of understand, what is it, who am I, what am I wanting? And so I think for anybody that's in that transitional phase, I think it's okay to take that time to sit with, what are the things that makes me, the best versions of me that I want to bring with me to my new version, and the things that no longer aligns with me and serves me, we're going to say bye-bye to
That
it.
is so amazing. I love everything that you're saying because it's really rooted in self-love and self-compassion and giving yourself the space and the grace to feel through what you need to move through to get to that next chapter in your life. And
Yeah.
it's what we were talking about before getting on this live stream, so it's so perfect. I think we're all going through it. It's the year of the horse. We spent
Yeah.
some time shedding
100%.
in
100%.
2025, and
Yes.
we're all going through it. So
Absolutely.
it was a
Absolutely.
perfect conversation. Thank you so much, Saruchi, for your presence and
No,
your honesty
of course.
today.
Of
Yes.
course.
This
Absolutely.
conversation was such a reminder that coming home to yourself doesn't require force, just courage, trust, and patience. And for everyone listening, we'll link Suruchi's work in the show notes. And just get ready for 100 Women Who Lead. That's going to be dropping March 12th. You'll get to learn more about Suruchi and her story there too, and support more amazing women and feel inspired and empowered by what they're doing, what they're creating, just like Suruchi. Thank you,
Thank you so
Suruchi.
much. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate it. And I look forward to reading. I know we've met the authors, and I cannot wait to read all of the stories.
Yes, it's going to
Yeah,
be such a powerful one. So much
yeah,
to learn from.
absolutely. Much needed for me, anyways.
Absolutely needed. Yes. Thank you, everybody.